Delhi wasn't even on the startup map, quite honestly, at the time, right? And then you obviously were doing a startup. You graduated from the US. What was like? What drove you to suddenly do this versus you came from a family that could have got you any banking job, for example, if you wanted.
Yeah, I think just that one when you come from this family of like I'm a third generation entrepreneur, right? So the bar is set high, right? There's always, it comes with some pressure also, but dinner table talks are like, what are you going to do next, right? What are you going to do that's big? Like what you can't, like a job is not cutting it, right? So you're always in this head where you have to make sure that you're doing well. The pressure is there. So the pressure can get to you also at times. But I think that's what drove me to do something, and that's what driven me since then till now to just do something of my own. And then obviously I kept hustling to all in capital. But yeah, this I would say it's the family and the background and the childhood that I've had that really pushed me to sort of do my own
So when you
thing.
started BookMyForex, did you think that it would be, one day front page news that it gets acquired by Make My Trip, 150 crore? You did, because you didn't raise any capital, right? I think
No, we raised about 35 crores out of
So you all did,
from
okay.
Fairing Capital, yeah.
From Fairing. When did that come in?
That came in, I don't know the years, I don't remember, but 2013, 2014,
Oh, wow.
same range. Yeah. We raised 35 crores, 40 crores. They supported us quite a bit.
Okay. And how many times did they invest? Was it a single?
Like 2 rounds.
2 rounds.
Two rounds,
okay.
yeah.
So and then eventually you sell this thing for 150.
Yeah, about 100, 150. 150 type was the figure, yes.
Okay. And what was that moment like for you?
It was great, yeah. So actually I left the business when I was 25, 26, right? And I went for my MBA. But the current two, Sudarshan Murwani and his son, they continued to run it.
Okay.
And they ran it for another 2-3 years. And there was some hard times also in the business. Then COVID hit.
Right.
That
must have been really hard.
Yeah, that must have been hard. So they ran it slowly, steadily because we were unable to raise more money after that. So what we realized was it's an interesting business, right? Forex, where margins are low, right? And what we got feedback from VCs was that how do you increase these margins? Because at 1.5%, even if you're doing 500 crores, it's very ops heavy.
Correct.
Right? So
Especially
even if you're doing
delivery,
500,
all that
yeah.
stuff.
So 1.5% doesn't cut it. So you have to do other stuff around it.
Makes sense.
Now, when you see the journey, right? How do I cross-sell, upsell? Forex is something that person buys right at the end before they travel. They plan their trip. Mostly, so 70% of the travelers in India are first-time travelers, right? So they plan their trip. They go to a travel agent, they'll buy their tickets, Make My Trip is done. They'll apply for their visa, the visa services is done.
Correct.
Then 3 days before traveling, he wants foreign exchange.
Correct.
That's when they come to me. That's when my lead gen has happened. Now, how do I monetize this person who's bought foreign and then flown off? And then when he'll come back next year, probably they travel once a year only or once in 2 years.
And there's no repeat. I mean, what's the
repeat is once in 2 years, right? So it takes time to build the brand because the repeats start to come in after 1 or 2 years. You build a brand. But there were very few avenues where you could actually monetize over and above just foreign exchange, right? You can probably do tours and travels when the person has traveled. But mostly they've planned everything before. So Forex itself becomes very tough to scale out of. For Make My Trip, it's quite simple, right? It's like a natural progression where they already have the lead gen, person is buying the ticket or buying a tour, travels, right? And then it's easy, they can just cross-sell, upsell Forex to that customer. So for them, it's another avenue of
and how much was
revenue
this
that they can get.
Prepaid card versus physical, let's say, delivery of Forex? How much was that business over the years? Was it 50-50 at the end, or what was it like?
I have to remember. So I would say it was increasing. So people were getting. I had a big part of my job was to convince, because my margins were higher in cards.
Correct.
It was to convince people that you take card.
It's easier, safer.
Yeah. So this is very interesting. Like I would say, which one, like Policy Bazaar. Even for this is a call center driven business. Like the product is in the call center.
Acha.
How you interact with your customer, how you're able to convert the customer, what are you going to tell the customer that they trust in you and purchase this online, right?
And how do you deliver that trust to the nth agent that was not part of the founding?
It has to be to the end agent, as in to the
like the new agent who has just joined. You have to now tell him that listen.
There have to be protocols where the person is trained. We would record their calls, show them calls that were really good, right? And so productize it in a way that how you have to sell, what you have to sell, what the company stands for. Right, we would have like recordings where we would record calls and listen to them in like good calls. That this is how you sell, right? So you have to. Policy Bazaar is a great example of that. You would feel like, okay, you just go click on a website, buy health insurance. Seems easy, right?
Right.
Then you get a call, so you feel like what's Policy Bazaar actually doing? But their core product lies in their call center. How they are selling, how often they call, how they convince the customer to buy health insurance from them rather than their neighborhood
Makes sense.
seller. So that's where the beauty of the business lied actually.